Hello everyone and welcome to the third game we're covering from the Tech Mahindra Global Chess League Round 2. It is Gukesh Domaraju, the world classical champion, versus Alireza Firouzja. And some of you have been asking in the previous video why are some of the players rated so low. Well, this is their rapid rating, and even though Gukesh is the world champion, his rapid rating is 2692, as he just didn't play a lot of rapid games. Alireza, on the other hand, is 2754, which is fairly close to his classical rating. And another thing, some of you have been wondering why I'm wearing shades. I have already explained that in 2 videos ago, so I will not be going into that every video. But yeah, it's a pretty interesting matchup. Also, one of the things that's interesting in this tournament is that if you win with the black pieces, you actually get 4 points for your team, whereas a win with the white pieces will only net you 3 points. And Gukesh coming off of a draw against Hikaru Nakamura, whereas Alireza coming off of a victory over Fabiano Caruana. It was a very impressive game. We've shown it. So if you haven't seen it, do check it out. It's quite an amazing game. But yeah, let's dive straight into it. Gukesh with white opens with pawn to c4. This is the English opening. And against the English, any move is a move. It's like against the Najdorf. You can play any move and it's a move. For example, in 2050 World Blitz Championship, Peter Heine-Nielsen played this knight to a6 move against Jonathan Karlstedt, and he won a very nice game. But okay, this is a contest of much stronger players, and knight a6 wouldn't really fly here. But you know, it's not impossible to play it. And that was blitz. This is rapid. So here, pawn to g6. Other popular ideas are knight f6, e6, e5, c5. You can really play anything here. But g6, this is like the 5th most popular continuation. g3, and we go symmetrical. Bishop g7, bishop g2, and pawn to c5. So perfect symmetry. We have knight to c3, knight to c6, knight to c6, and knight to f3. And here we have a deviation from the symmetry. Alireza goes pawn to a6, even though you could basically just continue playing symmetrical until this point. This is where the symmetry breaks, because check always breaks symmetry, but it's perfectly playable for both white and black. So if you want, you could actually play that. But okay, a6 from Alireza. We have castles kingside and the rook to b8. And for some of you have been wondering, has Alireza qualified for the candidates tournament? No. He will not be in the candidates tournament this year. Gone are the good old days where Wesley So already almost qualified for the FIDE candidates tournament, and then Alireza decided to play some Christmas games and overtook Wesley in the ratings, whereas Wesley decided to spend Christmas with his family. But yeah, what are you gonna do? Pawn to d3 and pawn to b5 from Alireza, attacking on the queen side, preparing pawn to b4. And here Gukesh trades once. We have captures, and bishop to e3, putting pressure on the c5 pawn, b4, and now Gukesh actually spends some 3 minutes here. Again, we're in known territory, and the knight to you could also play knight to e4, but he did go knight to e4, which is a known move. And now, okay, c5 is hanging. You have to do something about that. Pawn to d6 was played, and now there is a game where rook to b1 was played, but we have pawn to d4 by Gukesh, probably what he was contemplating during those 3 minutes on how to continue. And it is now, as of move 11, that we have a completely new game. And believe it or not, this is move 11. In 2 moves we will have a position where the game can basically be concluded. So, believe it or not, c captures on d4 was played, knight captures, we have knight captures, bishop captures, and here you should trade on d4 and then go knight to f6. Alireza played knight to f6 right away, and this is a pretty big mistake. Now, I'm going to ask you to pause the video here, because Gukesh has a move here that is simply outstanding. And you guys will, I imagine, feel excellent if you find a move that both Alireza and Gukesh missed. You know, you can show this diagram to your friends and family and, you know, just brag about it that you found the move that Alireza and Gukesh have missed. So feel free to pause the video. What do you play here as white? While I give you a couple of seconds. Yes, there is but one move, and that move is bishop to a7. There doesn't seem to be a square for that rook to use other than the b5 square. And while you could argue that maybe, you know, this being rapid and all, bishop is better than a rook, but it's very hard to make that argument, because what do you play here? If rook b5, just bishop to c6 check, and I mean, that's much better for white. And of course, if you try something like rook b7 to already get a bishop on this diagonal, and then maybe somehow you try to get the queen into the game, you just throw in a bishop to c6 check, and there's really no way to play this properly. If you go knight to d7, then you can just go bishop to d4, and again, it will always be better for white. Bishop captures, you're going to capture with the queen, you're going to attack the rook, and now after this rook moves, you're going to capture on b7, and after bishop captures, you're even going to capture on b4. And black is nowhere near fast enough. You just have two connected passed pawns on the queen side, and you will push them. On the other hand, after bishop to c6 check, if you don't play that, if you go king to f8, which is by far the better attempt, you can still just trade. Yes, bishop gets this diagonal, but you can play f3, and that bishop is never using this diagonal for attacking purposes. You will play e4, and at some point win the pawn and just advance those two pawns to victory. So hard to say why Gukesh did not go for bishop to a7, other than he just outright missed it. So, okay, Gukesh played pawn to b3, defends the knight here. Also, the bishop can come to b2, the knight can come to b2 to c4. He has to move the rook, but that's all the time in the world Alireza needs to get rid of the king from the center. And now, while bishop a7 is still possible, it's just not that great, because after rook b5 and bishop to c6, you can move the rook, and you can even throw in a bishop to h3, and if rook e1, even rook f5, and you start an attack against the black king. So, okay, after castle's kingside, we have rook to c1. Gukesh just getting his pieces to as active a square as possible. We have queen to a5. Okay, probably bishop d7 coming next with the idea of capturing on a4. We have queen to d2 and the bishop to d7. We have queen to e3 going after the e7 pawn. Alireza defends it, and now pawn to h3. Okay, so don't have to worry about any knight jumps. We have queen to h5, now shifting the queen into the attack, going after the h3 pawn. And while you could go king to h2, here it would actually be a pretty terrible idea, because knight g4 check, and okay, the h pawn is pinned, you lose a queen. So pawn to g4 is just much better. And I know you guys are already looking at that bishop captures on g4, but it just doesn't work, because after captures, of course, you're not going to allow knight captures. You're going to capture on f6, and there's really nothing there. It's still a fine position. You can play it, but it's just not winning or anything. So Alireza keeps the material on the board, queen to h4, and now Gukesh gets the rook on the 7th rank. He promotes it to a pig. We have bishop to e6, and now rook to d1. Okay, we have rook b to c8. Alireza wants to get rid of this active rook on c7. We have a trade, captures, and queen to d2. We have pawn to h5. Alireza says, you can have that b pawn. I'm going for checkmate here. Pawn to f3 and h captures on g4. We have h captures on g4. And again, I know you guys are looking at that bishop captures on g4, but you can always just play bishop captures on f6. And if bishop captures, f captures on g4, it's still playable, but you really don't have all that much here. White will not be able to push or anything on the queen side. If the knight ever moves, then the rook can even enter the game via the c5 square. So it could be dangerous, but yeah, all in all, only black can be better here. But okay, after h captures on g4, Alireza plays the much better bishop to h6. This is by far better. Knight to d5 was also very nice. And now it's a no-brainer, really. You have to capture on b4, otherwise you have nothing for your troubles. You can play e3, but then this pawn will be weak, and also the b4 pawn will be defended, so it's not great. So, okay, Gukesh plays a queen captures on b4, and now we have bishop to f4. With all sorts of nasty ideas along the dark squares, Gukesh brings the queen back, queen to e1, so now he can even start advancing the pawns, but now Alireza is completely winning. Queen h2 check, we have king to f1, knight to d5, with ideas of placing a knight on e3 at some point. We have queen to f2, trying to trade queens with queen to g1, and if you trade queens, then, like I said, you have two connected passed pawns on the queen side, you can push them and win the game. But Alireza has something else in mind. He plays rook to c2, and he says, I actually don't mind trading queens, I'm just gonna gobble up all of your pawns, and that's pretty much it. So Gukesh goes queen g1, and now I don't think anyone would trade queens here. You would just move the queen and enjoy a much superior position. But Alireza says, nope, it's enough. I don't need more. plays queen captures on g1. We have bishop captures, and now rook captures on a2. And he says, okay, the material is equal, but you know, I'm just much better here, and he's not wrong. We have rook to b1, Gukesh ready to advance that b pawn up the board, knight to e3 check. And the problem is now, if you move, you obviously have to keep defending the bishop. If you move the king, you can just win the pawn, and now you're much better plus up in material. So you have to capture on e3, give up the bishop pair. We have captures, and knight to c3. You attack the rook on a2, rook to c2, and now knight to d1, pushing the bishop back and the bishop to d4. And look at this light square bishop on g2. It's just horrible. This is a horrible piece, especially if you remember that position where you could have won the rook if that bishop to a7 was found. But okay, such is the fate of many light square bishops. We have bishop to d4, pawn to g5, now hoping that maybe something can happen along those light squares, although it's hard to even imagine how. Bishop to f5, now with some ideas of maybe even captures and then captures, but there's no need to rush anything. We have knight to obviously not that. We have knight to f2, and while you could go for the immediate captures, like I said, there's no need to rush. We have rook to a2, rook to d1, going after the bishop, and bishop to e3. And here we have pawn to b4, and there are many ways to continue this. Alireza's position is winning however you play it, but there is one move that forces instant resignation, and it's similar to what Gukesh missed. Alireza, however, did not miss it. Feel free to pause the video and try to find the absolute best move for Alireza while I give you a couple of seconds. The move, of course, is bishop to c2. Yes, Gukesh missed that bishop to a7 move with his dark square bishop, but Alireza does not miss the move with his light square bishop, and that's pretty much it. There's no way to continue, and of course here it was in this position on move 39 that Gukesh Domaraju, world classical champion, resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. If you go to e1, then just bishop to d2, and the rook is out of squares. And of course, if you go to d5, well, it's not much better. Just rook to a1 check, and now you have to give up the knight, you have to give up the rook. There's nowhere for the king to move, and you're just going to win all of the pieces. So of course, that's not going to happen. So after bishop to c2, Gukesh resigned, and Alireza starts a very, very impressive Tech Mahindra Global Chess League by beating Fabiano Caruana with white, but now beating Gukesh with black, earning 4 points for a victory against the world classical champion. So yeah, incredibly impressive stuff against the Alireza, the uncrowned prince. When he wants to play, he can really play. He can take down anyone. If only he would take chess seriously, who knows what he might accomplish. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Very weird stuff. Gukesh missing that bishop move. You could argue that, okay, maybe in a blitz or a rapid game, bishops are to be more valued than rooks, but you've seen the position. There's nothing, there's no mystery there. It was a clean miss. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Nicolas Rivard, Stephen Kalmer, David Gasparian, Timothy Rosen, and Gerhard Henkelman for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day. And if you still haven't tried Lotus Chess, first link in the description below. Check it out and see why everyone is so amazed by it. See you soon.